Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you are well and eager for this session. So thank you for giving up your precious time. This was quite a well-attended session. Unfortunately, it had to be rescheduled last week. We're all working mums, and unfortunately, Charlie had a bit of an emergency with one of her children. So we had to reschedule. So apologies for cancelling the last session. But this is the rescheduled session for a focused look at JIT. So my name is Nikki Kimball. I'm one of the educational consultants here at Just2easy. So let's make a start, shall we? So we are going to be looking at JIT today. And in this session, we're going to have a look at how you can find JIT on the Launchpad and a quick JIT overview. So I've split this really into two sections. So we've got JIT tools for Key Stage 1. Now these aren't strictly Key Stage 1, but these are definitely the ones that I would use in Key Stage 1. You could then revisit and look at using them again further up the school as well. So don't discount them. So we've got Paint, Write, Turtle, Pictogram and Chart. And then the ones that really are quite strictly JIT tools for Key Stage 2. So those are Aniimate, although I would probably maybe still use that in Year 2, which is your P3s, Branch and Mix. So let's have a look, shall we? So we're going to start off with how you can find JIT, and then we'll look at JIT Paint. Okay, so off your Launchpad, JIT is here. Okay, it's this lovely bright yellow tile here. Okay, now when you open up JIT, it always opens up in JIT Write. And just a few pointers for the tools as a whole. So each tool will open up with some tool specific options along the left hand side. So obviously I've got Write open at the moment, so I've got my writing tools. So I've got my fonts, my text size, my text color and my word lists. Each of the tools will have the file options along the left hand side. So we've got New. So that will load up the backgrounds or the templates that you can use. You'll have a load button. So that's great for loading up pre-made content that you've worked on before. And you'll notice in this section, you've got your My Files area. You've also got shared files. So if anybody shared a file with you, so these are files that other teachers have shared with me, you can access those there. And also the pupil files. So this is actually quite a nice way of showcasing at the end of a session. So once the kids have saved their work, you'll be able to access it here, and you can streamline according to class. So I can look at my class 1s, and you can streamline according to pupils as well. So it's great, you know, if they've done some fantastic work, you want to show the whole class, you can just click that load button, find them here, and then load up that particular file. So there we go. So you can show that to the whole class. So that's quite a nice way of doing that. You've got your save button. So at the moment this is grayed out. So if it makes any changes to that particular file, you can then save. So that's a nice floppy disk orange button. We've got our publish to JIT Webby. Now Webby is a bit of a legacy tool. People are definitely moving over to publish to journal instead. But if you are using Webby, you can publish straight to your class blog site, or you can publish straight to journal. So that will create, it'll prompt you to choose which journal you want to publish it into, and you can select, and then it will create a journal entry for you to then publish to your class journal. You've got the print button. If you really want to print things, you can undo and redo. Then you've got your file name at the top. You've also got the audio record function, which is nice, that goes alongside any of the JIT tools. So it's a great way of capturing evidence. So if the kids have, for example, created a lovely picture, they might have written a story that goes with that picture, and they can record their story. Pictograms, they could record themselves analysing that data and showcasing their knowledge and understanding of the activity. Turtle, they could describe what they were doing or how they created the algorithm. So that's a nice feature there. And that is that. All of our JIT tools are within the different tabs along the top. So these are great for developing digital literacy skills. So much like you would in different windows within your Google Chrome or whichever browser you're in, JIT has the same. So you open up the different tools using these tabs along the top. Now finally, each tool within JIT has its own coloured page. So from a classroom management perspective, this is really useful. Sounds really obvious, but for example, maybe you're doing a chart activity in your class. You know that the colour of the page is going to be orange, so you can look across the classroom and you know that little Johnny, it's always little Johnny, isn't it? Little Johnny has got a nice blue page, so he's off on his tangent and he's doing a little drawing by himself, so you know that you need to maybe redirect him back into the activity. So I like that each of these pages are a different colour. Okay, right. So we're going to look at JIT Paint first of all. I'm not going to spend too long at JIT Paint because it's pretty intuitive, it's pretty self-explanatory, but it allows you to choose and add a background, to add and edit photographs if you need to. It's got basic paint tools such as colour, brush and fill. There's also advanced paint tools, so your colour picker and your 3D texture tool. So that's what I was saying earlier, you know, it's very much a Key Stage 1 tool, but there are definitely elements that you can still use with your Key Stage 2 children. You can add in clip art images and you can add in web images as well. Save and you can export the image to be used in things like pictogram as well. Okay, now these are just two examples that I've provided. So an early years and a Key Stage 1 example here. Okay, so this was just using clip art and a background, so it is literally just stamping onto the page, so very quick and easy but quite effective. So nice for your Christmas cards, and we are running a Christmas card competition soon in JIT Paint, so keep your eye out for that. That will be coming in the next week or two. And this is a Key Stage 2 example, so you know, great cross-curricular links with things like science, geography. You could do things like the water cycle, solar system, that kind of thing. So there we go. So let's have a look at JIT Paint, shall we? So JIT Paint is this lovely blue tile here, or tab, should I say? There's too many T words in the tool suite. And it will always open up with prompting you to choose a background. And there's lots of backgrounds to choose from. We've got some really nice ones. And as you scroll down, you've also got these my brain is not working today, these line art drawings. So these actually are quite nice for children that are new, for developing their computer skills. Sounds bizarre, but if you imagine they've got this open, they're learning to use their mouse, which obviously is a discrete skill that you do have to teach because a lot of children are used to touchscreen devices. And they can use the fill tool. They can select a colour and they can start just filling in parts of her dress, for example, and there we go. Okay, and then they can click save. So nice for that mouse control. If you want to reload that background template, you just click on the little asterisk and that will bring that back up. So we do have those line drawings. There's a map as well, and there's some more seasonal ones towards the bottom. So Halloween, these will be useful in the next week or two. And Christmas, of course, we've got that coming up. Sorry to say the C word, but it is coming. It's on its way. I can't believe it's almost the end of October already. So I'm going to choose, let's go for a beach, for example. Okay, so we've got our beach. Various things that we can do. You can draw over the top, so the children can literally just paint over that background. They can use the eraser button, so that is that one, to erase anything they've done, or they can use that undo tool at the top and that will take those away. There's a paintbrush and a fill tool, and they can select a colour and fill that in if they want to change the colour of things, for example. At the bottom, we've also got two tools that sometimes go a little unnoticed. So this one on the left is our 3D texture tool. This is a really nice feature actually. So if we click on that, and I'm just going to zoom out so you can see, that gives us a lot of different textures that we can use. I've probably used the wrong background for this, but for example, we've got water. So I'm going to choose that in a second. We've got bricks, cardboard, some nice patterns here. Okay, as we scroll down, and these can be used as a paintbrush or as a fill tool. So I'm going to choose the water. So I could just draw with that. So it draws a nice 3D texture. Or again, as I said, you can use the 3D texture. So let's just try and fill in all the water. chose the wrong background for this, but there you go. Okay, so that gives you an idea of what you can do with the 3D textures. The other tool that we've got, so we've got 11 preset colours. So these are great for the little ones because they can just click on these and start drawing. As they get a little bit older, you can start talking about things like the colour wheel, so great art links there. And we've got this colour picker. So again, I'm going to zoom in so you can see that little pipette at the bottom of my colour picker tool. So if I click that, that brings up my colour wheel. So then the children can select a specific colour that they want. So we've got the colours around the outside and then they can choose the shade. So I might change my sand to a kind of beigey kind of colour. This is great if you're doing things like skin tone. We've got a great all about me activity that you can do. Then I can fill that in and there we go. Got more of a sandy kind of colour there. Okay, then lastly, you've got your clip art. So depending on which background you've chosen will determine which clip art is showing. So because I've chosen the beach, randomly it chooses the Philippines. It's because we sell to a lot of schools in the Philippines. But we can use these arrows on the right and left to add things onto our beach. But there are also other clip arts. You might think, oh, Philippines isn't ideal. So we can add things like what would go with the beach? There we go. I don't know why that doesn't load. There we go, beach. So we can start adding things like buckets in, and we can make those bigger or smaller. You can rotate them. You can flip them around so they're looking the other way, and then you've got the reset button in the top left. And we can use the arrows to navigate our way around this particular clip art library. Now, the other thing that we can do, we click beach. You've got your stamps, so you can save things as stamps to use. You've got, you can look into your My Files, so anything you've saved as an image in your My Files will be there. You've got your web search, so we could search for example, I want to look for a crab. And we'll try and find a kind of clip art one. That's going to have a white box around it, but we can stamp that there. And then I can fill that box around that crab. There we go. So you can add photos as well as clip art, and you can search for images. The last thing that you can do, that comes up sometimes, is you can take photos. So I've got a live lesson, that'd be fantastic for that. So I'll show you that, but that is how you would take a photograph and add it into your picture. Okay, and that's JIT Paint. Probably, I say this about all the tools, but probably one of my favorites because of its versatility. It's a very robust tool. And you can rename, so we could say beach painting, and then click save. And there we go. Now, as I said earlier, you do have that audio record function at the top. So that's a nice way of capturing evidence. So maybe the children have created an image of something that they're doing as a topic. They can record some associated audio to go alongside that. And that will save linked to that particular file. So that is JIT Paint. Now, I thought I'd give you just some examples of things that you could use it for. Hook for writing. So as a creating teaching resources for your kids is a great tool. So this one, you know, the aliens have landed in school. You could take a photograph. It's a bit grainy, I'm sorry. You could take a photograph of your school field and then stamp some characters in there. Maybe you're looking at dinosaurs, so you want the dinosaurs coming into school. We've got aliens. So it's a nice hook for writing, for the kids for creative writing. Retelling of a familiar story, so they can recreate a character. You can see here we've got the very hungry caterpillar, could be the Gruffalo, could be Tiddler, could be, I don't know, I'm trying to rack my brains, tiger that came for tea, so they could create and draw their own character. Writing a different genre, so there is a clip art library for speech bubbles, so you can add that in and create different sort of writing genres. Making Christmas cards, so this was posted by a Welsh school, so that was their nursery or reception class making their Christmas cards. And there are some art activities. So I do this as a live lesson, which I'll show you in a second, linking to artists. So we've got Mondrian, it's been a long time since I've taught art. But you could recreate that in the style of certain artists. And then we've got pixel art. Now that is a template in the library if you need it, where they just fill the little boxes to create art. So that's they love that. I've done that a couple of times with classes and they really enjoy that. Right, we do something called live lessons, which if you've been on my webinars before, you're probably bored of me hyping these up, but they are becoming really, really popular now. We've done one this morning on the Titanic. There are a couple that are pre-recorded already, so not pre-recorded. These are the ones we've got coming up. So there are some pre-recorded ones on our YouTube channel. But we've got this one coming up on the November the 5th. So this is firework painting. So the concept is I will teach your class for you. I stream it live through YouTube. All you do is jump on the link at 10:45 every other Tuesday. So this one's on November 5th. They are geared towards certain year groups. So we're doing firework painting. And in December, I may move this forward because I feel like this is a little bit late in December. Creating Christmas pictures using the clip art. So that is geared towards really sort of your reception year 1, year 2s. So you can find links for these on our YouTube channel. So our YouTube channel is Just2easy TV. We have some recorded already in our live lesson recording. So you can see there's a JIT paint and animate. There's another write and paint activity there. So those are the recorded ones. But the ones that are coming up are under the live tab. Okay, so you can see we've got quite a few coming up. I do them every other week. We might even move them up to every week because they're so popular now. But this is the one. So you would click on this, and on the 5th of November at 10:45, I'll just go live. You sit, learn alongside your students, and we can do some shout outs as well. So let us know if you're joining us. Now each of these has a little description about what we're going to do in the activity and which year group it's geared towards and which tools we'll be using. So please have a look at joining us for those because they're a really great way of upskilling in kind of a teaching environment. Right, we'll have a look at JIT Write now. So JIT Write allows you to add backgrounds, add text, edit text, use word lists for spelling, use text to speech, speech to text, and save. So let's have a look. So JIT Write. Here we go. So I showed you one a bit earlier. So I'm going to load up. So I'm going to use that asterisk to load up my backgrounds. So I'm just going to choose space just for today's purposes. And there we go. So that's going to load that as a background, same as we had in JIT Paint. And we can just start writing. So space by Miss Kimball, for example. Okay, now what's nice about JIT Write is the children can change their font and their size of their font. They don't have to highlight anything first. I found that really frustrating with the younger students when you're teaching them when they're using tools where they have to highlight something first, because that click, hold and drag is a really tricky skill, physically tricky, let alone, understanding the process for little hands. And on an iPad, it can be quite tricky as well. So don't have to highlight anything. They just click and change the font. There's only 6 fonts to choose from, which is nice. And they can change their text colour as well at the click of a button. Once they've written something, they do have text to speech in the top right. So they can listen to their work once they've written it, which you might not have heard that come through, but that did say what was on the page. They've also got built-in word lists. So depending on which word list is showcasing, which template you've chosen will determine which word list is shown. And these have text to speech as well. So I can hover over any of these words and I've got this little speech bubble that appears and I can listen. And that said Mars. This works ever so slightly differently on a touchscreen device, because you don't have that hover function that you do with a mouse. So just bear that in mind. If they are using the word lists on a touch screen, they have to click the word once to listen to it and then double click. So click it quickly twice to add that into their document. Okay, so, and just to show you, if I click on this word, that's going to type that into that document. Okay. And then lastly, we've got our speech to text. So we can click on this and it's going to give us a dictation tool. Great for younger learners and those that maybe struggle. So, generally the children don't like to make sweeping generalizations, but children who have dyslexia, that maybe have a lot of content in their head and knowledge and understanding, but they really struggle to make themselves known and express that knowledge. So this might be a really suitable tool for them. So you can click on this microphone here and dictate their work instead. The moon orbits the Earth. And there we go. It understood my Birmingham accent. You can dictate in different languages. So if you are joining us from a bilingual school, for example, there are various languages that you can choose. And then you can add that text onto the page. And there we go. So that is JIT Right. And then again, the children would rename that and click. I mean, it helps if I spell Earth right. And then they click on the save button. Now, another nice feature is they get that sort of feedback, so that little saving circle shows, and the save button grays out. So I've taught many Key Stage 1 students. When they don't get that feedback of something happening, they will keep clicking the save button. We all know that's true. And they'll end up with 15 copies of the same file saved into their files. So you won't have that with JIT because they get that feedback. And unless they make further changes, they can't save that again. They can only save it once. Obviously, if they then go back and start adding things in, they can then save again. So that is a nice feature for our younger learners. So this is just an example of an acrostic poem, and that is kind of using the different font sizes, colours, and a photo background. So I didn't show that, but when you load a template, you've also got the option for the Pictures tab. So you can add in images that you've got in your My Files, but same as we had with our clip art, this just adds it as a background. You've got that little globe. So you could look for autumn, for example. So if you want to do some visual inspired writing, maybe you've got an autumn topic at the moment, maybe you're doing, I don't know, bonfire night or Halloween. So let's see what comes up with Halloween. So there you go. So you could have that as a background that they then write over the top. Okay, so, and we can change that and how that looks. So that is how you can recreate that particular picture there. Okay, so some examples from schools creating stories from Holton Primary School. Beach safety rules. I thought that was a really nice idea by a Scottish class, Dosbath Little Haven, writing about the beach rules. Online safety rules. Okay, so nice ties in with your internet safety. And autumnal acrostic poems, so very seasonal, posted by Eveswell Primary. So thank you to all those schools for sharing that content. Now, again, we have got a live lesson recording. So this was recorded last year. In fact, it's been incredibly popular. I think we've had 600 classes watch this so far. So however many children that is. So that is available on our YouTube channel. It is all about me. So they'll draw a picture in JIT Paint. They'll save that, then add it as a background into JIT Right and write some facts about themselves over the top. So please have a look at our YouTube channel for that. Okay, JIT Turtle. So JIT Turtle is the beginnings of coding your algorithmic language. It's great for directional language. It's a nice step on from BBots. So if you're using BBots in your early years classes or your year 1, P2, that kind of year group, this is a nice step from off-screen to on-screen. Okay, because it uses the same buttons and it's a very simple tool to use. So you can add a background or there are preset backgrounds. You can add a sprite or there are preset sprites in some of the backgrounds. You can program the sprite using basic commands, debug algorithms and move them around. It's got a simple and an advanced mode, and there are templates with increasing complexity. So let's have a look. So we've got Turtle here. So it loads up in exactly the same format. So you can see the consistency that's going throughout the tools here. The children pick it up really quickly. And you can see all the buttons stay the same. I feel like I'm going to sneeze. I'm really sorry. No, it's gone. There are some templates. Now these are designed to be followed in this order. So you would start with the Big Bad Wolf, move to Space, Desert Adventure. So they do have slightly increasing complexity levels. Now the Big Bad Wolf is a really nice one to start with because when the sprite, so this is our little character, the Big Bad Wolf, that is our sprite, when he travels over the houses, they will collapse, much as they would in the nursery rhyme, in the tale. What's the word? I am struggling today. Brain fog is hitting me hard. So to create our algorithm, the children just click on the directional button. So we know that this straw house is in front of us. We're going to click forwards, forwards. Now you might not be able to see, but if I zoom in, you may well be able to see. There is actually a grid, okay, on this template. So that is really helpful because it can help the children once they're used to navigating the sprite, you know, and they've had a chance to explore. That can help them to figure out and to logically reason outcomes. Okay, so I can see that my sprite needs to move up 1, then he needs to turn to the right, then he needs to move 1, 2, 3 steps forwards. Okay. You do also have a pen up and pen down. I can't remember which one is which. That is pen down and that is pen up. If they have placed the algorithms, so you've got your script here. So if they place the algorithm, so that is the instruction, in the wrong place, they can click and hold and move them around. Okay, so they're not set in stone. They can debug. So that is the process of figuring out where they've gone wrong and fixing that problem. So that is debugging. It's part of, certainly a terminology that's part of the English computing curriculum. So that's how you would debug. And then they can carry on. So we're going to go forwards, right, forwards, forwards, and forwards. Okay, and then they can press play. So that's going to start it from the beginning. So there we go. We've debugged that our pen needs to start at the beginning, and he's travelled over those buildings and they've collapsed. So nice feedback for the students. Now the difference between simple and advanced is that advanced, the sprite won't move until you press the play button. So it's a great skills progression. So you could, you know, do the simple mode in year 1, for example, and then revisit it in year 2 and talk about figuring out and then pressing play to check whether their algorithm is correct. So, you know, we could use these boxes. We're going to move for 1, 2, then we're going to turn right and then forwards 2. So we're going to go forwards 1, 2, right, forwards 2. So let's see if he ends up in the correct place. So has he ended up on the brick building? Yes, he has, and it hasn't collapsed because it doesn't. So that is the main difference between the two modes. You can delete any of those algorithms and see how that affects the outcome. Unfortunately, you can't speed him up. He just goes at 1 speed. And then you could, you know, talk about, well, there are multiple different ways to get to each end point. So he could still turn left and then forwards, and he's still going to end up at the house. So even though it's coded differently, you can still end up with the same outcome. Last few little bits, you've also got, that is the go home, so that'll reset your sprite so that he's at his starting point. You can add additional sprites or change your sprite if you want to. So we could have a cat instead. Unfortunately, we can't transfer this code into this box, so you would need to start again. But you can move your sprite so that he starts in different places. And you can clear your commands as well. So that will clear all commands, so that starts afresh. Okay, and in fact, I'm going to get rid of that sprite, and there we go. And then you would rename. So I don't know, Wolfie. and hit save, and that's going to save that into their My Files. And of course, you have that record function as well. So that's a nice way of sort of capturing that incidental knowledge. Maybe they could talk about how they program their algorithms, how they figured out how to fix the problems, what processes they went through for debugging. So that's a nice way of capturing evidence. So that is Turtle. And just some examples. We've got coding using Turtle from a school in County Down with their, I think they're P3s or P4s. So these are older students. We've got a year 2 class here. So gathered around the board on their lovely carpet, and they had a solar space project as part of World Space Week. And I did something on World Space Week, but it wasn't coding. And then writing messages using JIT Turtle. So using the sprites to write letters. So this girl has written the word hi. So that's a really nice activity as well. Okay. We do have some live lessons. I've got one recorded, so that is navigating the town. So if any of you are from Northern Ireland, that is linked to the SEER task, navigating the town. So that was recorded as part of National Coding Week back in September. So that is ready to go. And then I have one scheduled also for the 14th of January. So we will do Big Bad Wolfie, which is exactly the session that we've just done. That's for years 1 and 2. So have a look at joining us for that one. They're all at 10:45 on a Tuesday. Right, pictogram. I'm losing the battle against my clock. I'm also losing my voice right there. Right, so pictogram. Great for your data handling, your maths curriculum. Again, you can use preset templates or you can create your own. You can edit the template, you can add additional selections and edit the labels as well. So let's have a look at pictogram. So pictogram is this lovely red tile tab. And these are the preset ones that you have. And I am going to use a preset one, but just bear in mind, I'm going to change one of the buttons in the preset one. But if you wanted to create your own, you would just repeat that process on a blank template. I hope that makes sense. Okay, you can add pictures as a background. I personally don't like that. I like the white unclutteredness, but that's my SEND teacher coming through. So you can add background images if you wanted to. So you could have a Halloween background if you want to do a Halloween pictogram. Now I'm going to choose favorite fruit, so that is preloaded that. Now the templates open up in the view file. So the children, you could just have the children coming up to the whiteboard or the panel or whatever it is that you deliver on and pressing these buttons to showcase their favorite fruit. But we can edit this by ticking on this edit button at the bottom. And there we go. So I might have an additional button and I'm going to add a raspberry into here. Now I can draw it. So if you're feeling particularly artistic, you can draw in that tiny little box, but I wouldn't recommend it. So what you can do is open up the clip art libraries. Now I can tell you there is a food and drink clip art library, but there isn't a raspberry in there. So as with all the other tools, just look for that little globe button and that will be your Google search, and that passes through a child safe search, so you're not going to get any nasty surprises come up. That is always a risk if you're doing a live Google image search on your whiteboard. I think we've all been there. Something has surprisingly come up. But let's look for raspberry. And then wait, let's try again. I don't know why that's not, there we go. So we've got raspberry and I'm going to try and find, there we go. So that one, so I'm going to click on that image. So that is going to add that up there. So now what I can do is I can, when I'm on a big device like a computer, it's very easy to just stamp that into that box, which is what you can do. Now the children generally are using much smaller devices and that can be a little bit tricky sometimes. Especially with their gross motor skills, sometimes they find it difficult to click in the exact box. So what's nice about pictogram is actually you only have to, can you see how the boxes at the bottom are glowing red? So that's showing me which box I'm adding into. So I only have to hover above that box, click, and that will stamp that picture into that box for me. And then I've got the label underneath, so I just click in there, rename it raspberry, and there we go. Okay, so now I have got my template ready to go. So the students can come up to the board and have a go at this. Now, if I want to share this with my students, there is a slightly bigger step for this, but I can save this. I'm going to have fave fruits template. So I'm going to save this. Okay, so that is going to save into my files. So for my students to access this exact template, if I go to my files, there's my fave fruits template that I've just created. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the green I button and I go to share. And then I can choose my class that I want to share using this little drop down box here. Okay, hopefully that's showing. And I'm going to share that with my class. So they now have access to that. Okay, so my students, I'm just going to open up Lottie. She's in my class. So to access that JIT file, she can open up JIT. She can go to pictogram. And then she can go to load. Okay, and then within that shared files box, there is that fave fruits that I've shared as a teacher. So it's nice, quick, easy. So this will require maybe slightly older students, so your younger students would probably struggle a little bit with that. But that is how you would then share a template with the students to then have a go with, or they could create their own if they are that digitally competent. And Lottie can obviously, she can start, you know, if she's tallied this up in class. Strawberries are always a favourite, and raspberries. If my fridge is anything to go by, they don't last more than 5 minutes. And then Lottie can save that, and that is going to save a copy into my files. So as a teacher, I can always access that through the pupil files area. Okay, so I can see Lottie in the pupil file. So I open up, she's in class 1. I can go to Lottie's file, and there is her template. So that is ready for me to mark. So that's the workflow. And that works for anything, any JIT template that you've created. Maybe, you know, it's a photo background in Write. Maybe it's a background that you want them to use in Paint. Maybe it's a bugged game in Turtle. That process will be the same. You will save it, share it, and then they can open it using that load button there. Okay. So that is pictogram. So some examples of use. Bird watching project, I thought that was absolutely fantastic. So they logged the different types of birds. They went out on a bird watching walk. Oh, I miss working with kids sometimes. And then we've got Our Ladies of Lourdes Primary. So they did a Halloween pictogram. So that is actually a library activity. So you can share that with your students, and they have to count the different types of pumpkins and Halloween activities and then log it on a pictogram. And sorting chameleons. So they've got the different kind of coloured chameleons at a nice Welsh school. So there we go. We don't have a live lesson on pictogram, I'm afraid, but I will add it to the list. Chart. So this allows you, again, to use either existing templates or create your own. I'm going to go very quickly through this because it works in a very similar fashion to pictogram. You add your data, you can edit your columns, save and export image to use in other programs if you want to. So let's go to chart. So again, you've got your templates, okay, or you can create your own. Let's create our own. Let's go for, we'll stick with the favourite fruit. So I can change the column title. Number, you can keep that the same. So we're going to have apple, we'll have banana, orange, and strawberry. Okay, I don't know why that's gone black. And then you add in your numbers. So let's go 4, 3, 2, 7. Okay. And you can change these sections to different colours. So we'll have apple is green, banana has got to be yellow, hasn't it? Orange is orange, and strawberry, that can be red. So there we go. And then you can switch on and off the different chart types. So they can see them side by side. They can choose the one that they like the best. So I never like line charts, or block charts. The pie chart's quite nice because you can separate the segments. Just be aware, if you are printing this out, it won't print with the table, which is a bit strange. I am bugging the development team to change that, so hopefully that will change soon. And then, as with all the others, you rename and save, and you've got the record function at the top. You can also export this as an image, so top right, so that means you can use it in things like JIT Create if you wanted to. So that is JIT chart. So just some examples of use. I thought this was lovely. School fair market research project. So they wanted to figure out what would sell well on their stall, and they tallied it up and added it into a chart. So that's really lovely. This one was given this week, so numeracy and that is digital competency framework in Welsh. So this was all in Welsh, and I think they were researching, again, favourite fruits, so melon. I have no idea what these words mean, but it is a bilingual site if you need it. And then tracking activities that raise our heartbeat, as they track those using charts. So some really nice cross-curricular links there. So not just ticking off maths, but things like PSHE, project work, science. So yes. Now, animation. I love animation. It's a nice step up from Paint. It's got all the same features as Paint, so it is a nice skills progression. If they can use Paint, they can use Animate. Again, you can add a background, edit the background, add in animated characters, draw characters, add clip art details, text, speech bubbles. You can save and you can export it as a GIF. So we actually did an activity. We created the Titanic earlier. So if I open up Animate, again, you've got your backgrounds, so you can choose various backgrounds and you can make characters move. Now I am going to load up the Titanic animation that we did earlier, just to show you. So we created this stamp in JIT Paint. So this was drawn in JIT Paint, then saved as a stamp. So when you create something in Paint, so just to give you an idea, so imagine this is my apple. Okay. There we go. And I just want this to use in my image. You can click this button here. So that saves it as a character that you can use in other things. You can use it in J2 Create. You can use it in Animate. Okay, but this is the Titanic animation that we created as part of our live lesson earlier. And we made our Titanic sink. So we drew the Titanic and then we animated it. So that's a really nice activity. So let's load a new. I'm going to load in my park. And now when I open up my clip art, so you can use the existing clip arts. I don't know why. There it is, there's my apple. So I can have my apple as a character. So that is in my stamps. You've also got the option to use any characters that you've got, okay, in the clip art. So we've got animals, for example. I don't think we've got a caterpillar. You can add in your any pictures in your My Files, or you can look, again, web search. So let's look for a caterpillar, for example. And unfortunately, they aren't clip art, so you could use that one. Or you could draw your own hungry caterpillar. But I'm going to choose my stamp and I'm just going to make this apple move. Okay, so you've got your frames along the bottom. You can also edit your background. So let's get rid of this. So I can click on this bit here and I can change my background. So I might change and add some grass. So let's choose the grass. There we go. I'm going to fill that in. So all the same functionality that we had. That is too coarse. Let's reduce that. There we go. That's better. So you can edit any of the background that you wanted to. So we might make this sky a little bit bluer. There we go. And then I can choose my character. So now I go to my first frame. And I'm going to make my character a little bit smaller. There we go. Okay. and I'm just going to stamp that on the first frame. Then I go to the second frame, and I've got this ghost apple now. Now the technical term for that is onion skinning. Okay, and I do have a number of live lessons that go through this whole animate process. So the best way to animate is to hover over and try and get that character to kind of have moved slightly since the previous frame, but not a lot. So the smaller the movement, the better your animation is going to be. And then you carry that on. So you go to the next frame and stamp again. Next frame, stamp again. Next frame, stamp again. And then when they get to the fifth frame, then they can start using the green plus. So that adds a new frame and they can keep going. So green plus, stamp, green plus, stamp, green plus, stamp. You get the idea. And then you can hit play, and there is our character that is moving. Obviously an apple wouldn't move. I picked a really bad example, but that could have been a ball. It could have been the very hungry caterpillar, could be the gruffalo, could be the mouse. There's lots of uses. So retell of a familiar story is a really nice animation activity. And then you can save that. So we've got that save button. You've also got the save as GIF button. So that will save that as a separate animation file. So just to show you, I'm going to go to my files, just to show you from this morning's activity. Here we go. So there's my Titanic animation that we looked at there. But this is what the GIF will look like. So it removes all the stuff around the outside. And you can use that in other stuff. So you can use that in J2 Create if you wanted to. Okay, so that is Animate, and that is just an example of the very hungry caterpillar who eats the apple. And that is using the eraser tool. So I've added the character, then I've erased it. Okay, so some nice examples. We've got animating a seed growing. So great for your science curriculum. Animating conversations in French. I thought that was amazing. So great MFL links there. Animating the coronation, so that was very seasonal for, was it 2-3 years ago? And then this one, animating a familiar story. So let's just have a look at this very quickly, because this is Superworm. And she had all the, so this was a year, either year 1 or year 2, so it wasn't a very old student. And they added in all their characters and the Superworm. And it was just a nice retell of what happened in that story. And I think they did that mostly independently. So that's really lovely to see. We have got YouTube live lesson recordings. So we've got one on Christopher Crocodile. That is JIT Paint and Animate. So that's creating a background and then animating over the top. This is the one that I did this morning. This is why my brain's not working, because I spent an hour and a quarter doing this. This is geared towards your much older students, so P5 and 6, P6 and 7, which is year 5 and 6s. And we did that exact, creating a stamp and animating it. And then I've got a Christmas animations live lesson scheduled for Tuesday, the 3rd of December. I have geared that towards, I think, years 2 and 3 and 4, maybe. I should have written that down. But really, I think most children will be able to access that from sort of your years 2 upwards, so P3 upwards. So please join us for that. That'd be great if you could come along. Right, we've got last 2 left, and then I'm done. So JIT Mix. So this is an ebook creator. And it allows you to combine the best elements of the other tools into different pages. So you can choose a page layout, choose a JIT tool, create an ebook with different pages. You can record sound, edit text. There's accessibility tools built into it as well, and save. And you can view it in view only mode as well. So let's have a look. We've got JIT Mix. So the key thing to remember with JIT Mix is you need to think about which tool you want to use on the page. So if you were, for example, this is my front page, so I would probably want a paint page so they can draw a front cover for their book, for example. But you can use other tools. So these arrows here, this colour will correlate with the tool. So that is a right page. That is a paint page. That is a turtle page. That is a chart page, pictogram, animate, branch, and back to right. So the children really need to think about what tool they want to use first. Then they can choose which layout. So you've got 4 layouts here. I generally start with this one as a front page, and then you hit tick. And that's where some people sort of fall down, because they just click the tick and then they wonder why they can't import a pictogram page, for example. It's because you need to choose a pictogram page first. So this is a paint page. So you can draw. That was happening last week. You can draw over the top. Maybe you can't. This was broken last week and I thought they had, there we go, fixed it. The fill's not fixed. This will be fixed. So they can draw over the top and they can add in things like their stamps that we did earlier. Oh, that's a nice picture. So this box will work much like the paint tool that we've just looked at. Then they've got the writing box at the bottom. So that, when we click in this box, will bring up their writing tool, same as we looked at in JIT Write. So they can make that text bigger. So my Halloween book by Miss Kimball. There we go. I can make that bigger or smaller. I've got my word lists, same as we had in JIT Write. I can change my fonts. Okay. And I've also got my record function. Now this has changed in the last week. Finally, I've been here 5 years and I've been nagging them to do this. They've finally changed it. So previously this record function was for the whole book. So you could only have 1 audio recording per book. Now it's per page. Hurrah! So we can hit record and then record. My Halloween ebook by Miss Kimball. And that is linked to that. So we can play that back. And hopefully you heard that. And there we go. And then we can add a new page. So let's add in an animate. Okay, so I've got my animate page. In fact, let's go for this one. I'm going to go for a different page layout and I can hit tick. Now this one, I might have already created an animate in JIT Animate already as the standalone tool. So I can animate straight into this, so it works in exactly the same way. Or at the top here, I'm just going to zoom in. These will allow you to load a background template onto this page. Okay, so that is the same as in Animate. So you can choose a background, but this button here allows you to load in existing animations that have already been created. Not only that, it allows you to create to add in pupil. So this is a great way of collating like a class ebook. So if they've all done a piece of work on something, for example, and you want it all in one document, you can add a page per pupil. So let's have a look and see if we've got any. Oh, there we go, Halloween. So I've got a Halloween picture animation, so I can click that and that's going to load that onto that page, and I could say Harry's Halloween animation. There we go, that's too big, and I can add that in and that will play. So that is his little animation. Okay, and again I can record audio. This is Harry's Halloween animation created on the 22nd of October 2024. Obviously you would make it a little bit more exciting. But there we go. The Ed team were very excited about that update, probably a little bit sad, but we were. And you can keep adding as many pages as you want, and there can be different tools. Okay. So that is JIT Mix. Again, you would save in the same way you'd save, and that saves to your My Files. I promise I'm almost done. I'm just going to go through branch and then you're free to go. But there we go. So we've got a Gruffalo retell. Some examples. So we've got writing about people we care about in Welsh. So posted by Parkland Primary class. This was fab. I'm going to show you this in a second. And then creating a fact file of 3D shapes in JIT Mix. So again, great cross-curricular links. This was posted earlier by a lovely school, and this was a child's ebook, and they wrote and drew their own images, wrote their story, and it had sort of links to whatever they were looking at as a genre, and it's really well written actually. So that was lovely, and that is by Peter at Mary Queen of Peace Primary in Glenravel. Okay, and we do have a couple of live lesson recordings, including the smart rules, on our YouTube channel. Right, lastly, we've got Branch. So Branch is great for Key Stage 2 maths, allows you to classify data, add data, use sorting questions, and it has a simple and an advanced mode. So let's have a quick look. So you've got your backgrounds. I always choose blank, just my SEND background, but you can choose background images, and then you choose data to sort. So for example, maybe we're doing some animals as our topic. You can drag the animals into this box, so into this tree to be sorted. You can drag, I think, up to 24 pieces of data. Now, the difference between the simple and the advanced is with the advanced, you can write a description. So if you are looking at this in the year 3, 4 maths curriculum, you can come back and revisit it in the year 5, 6 science curriculum, for example, and they can use that as a research project and find some facts. So that is the main difference. And then you click sort, and then you use a sorting question. So you're going to say, can I fly, for example. Then you're going to drag the ones that it applies to on the left hand side and the ones it doesn't apply to along the right. There we go. And then you click OK, and you keep going. So you use sorting questions. Do I eat ants? Obviously your question would be much better. I don't know if a badger does or not. There we go. Can I roar? And click OK, and there we go. There is our branching database. So I'm going to click save now. There is a little bit more to it, but I'm conscious that I'm sort of running up to the end of the session now. Again, you can click save, and that is going to save into the My Files area. Okay, there is a more in-depth video of this in the data webinar that I did a few weeks ago. So that is on our YouTube channel. So if you want to know a little bit more about it, please have a look at that. So that's just an example. That is a Guess Who game. And then some branching database examples. So classifying animal data, they've used photographs in that. Year 2 practice their typing questions using branching on JIT. They linked that to a text that they were doing to class topic. And Victorian inventions. I thought they were all really, really innovative uses of JIT branch. Not the usual classifying animals. Right, okay, so with 1 minute to spare, our contact details. You can contact the ed team at edteam@j2e.com. So that comes through to Mary, Charlie and myself. We're on Facebook and X, formerly known as Twitter, so look for us, Just2easy. We've also got a Just2easy Facebook group with lots of teachers, so we share things like lesson plans, activity ideas. So just look for Just2easy teachers, and please give us a like or a subscribe or join that group, and we'll let you in on that. And then that is our YouTube channel, Just2easy TV. So, have we got any questions at all? Please feel free to write them down in the chat. Don't even have to be about JIT. If you've just got a burning Just2easy question, I'm more than happy to answer it. If not, thank you ever so much for giving up your precious time. I hope you've enjoyed it, and we hope to see you for another session soon.